You are listening to the IoT for All Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IoT for All podcast on the IoT for All Media Network. I'm your host, Ryan Chacon, one of the co-creators of IoT for All. Now, before we jump into this episode, please don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or join our newsletter at iotforall.com/newsletter to catch all the newest episodes as soon as they come out. But before we get started, does your business waste hours searching for assets like equipment or vehicles and pay full-time employees just to manually enter location and status data? You can get real-time location and status updates for assets indoors and outdoors at the lowest cost possible with Leverage's end-to-end IoT solutions. To learn more, go to iotchangeseverything.com. That's iotchangeseverything.com. So, without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the IoT for All podcast. Welcome, Alessandro, to the IoT for All show. Thanks for being here this week.
Thanks to you, Ryan. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, same here. We're very excited to have you on this episode. Looking forward to this conversation. Let's start off by having you give a quick introduction about yourself. Talk a little bit more about your background, experience, anything you think would be relevant for our audience, just to get a better sense of who they're listening to.
I'm a passionate about technology since I was very young, and spent a part of my life in loving security and insecurity of systems. Then I founded Interlogica in 1995, so we are on the market since a lot of years. I really enjoyed the evolution of the technology in the last 35, 40 years. It's an amazing evolution. I've seen technology becoming from something for just few people to something that is totally pervasive in humanity and in every kind of business. And my company is, you can call it a software house, but actually working on the software means a lot working on the business models of the companies, helping companies to evolve their business models. And it's something we really love. We started working on the software, then we started to understand that working on the organizations and the business modeling is very, very exciting too. And the two, technology and human organizations together, are an incredible mix of interesting things to do.
Absolutely.
We have a very wide. We are focused in a pretty wide spectrum of technologies, but we've seen in the last years that most of that technologies are converging in a big. In something big that is happening, that is the Internet of Things, the IoT. Mm-hmm. And this is the reason why we are very interested, and we are working a lot and creating experiences in that kind of market. In IoT you can put most of the more interesting technologies available today converge in that topic. You can speak about big data, you can speak about security, you can speak about devices, obviously, you can speak about artificial intelligence, machine learning, enterprise nervous systems, and many things. Mm-hmm. And this is the subject where we love to work. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that connects really well to kind of my next question, which is kind of that love and passion that you have. Tell me a little bit more about the story behind Interlogica and how it was founded, why it was founded, what was the opportunity or the problem you saw in the market to kind of form the company from the beginning?
Yeah, well, we were a small team of, let's say, hackers in the 80s. four guys, as I said, in love of technology, and so we started to create a company because we were in love with the technology more than in the business itself. But soon we found a sort of need in the market, and the need at that time was of an agile company that was able to resolve big troubles for big companies. So for many years, the main activity of Interlogica was to collaborate with big customers in resolving big troubles in their IT platforms. I mean, in their software platforms. The mindset we always had, that is a mindset we can define it a mindset composed by hacking approach and an agile approach too. All that mindset have been very useful in that critical situations. Then, after many years working in that field, and it's a field where we still work today, sometimes, we started to have the capability and the opportunity to collaborate in a more wider projects in different situations inside the same customers. And we started to work hard in the industrialization of big processes, and mainly for service companies, so not production companies. And then the evolution, we still work also in that field. We are leaders in Italy in the long-term rental industry. I mean, the companies that rents for long-term fleets of vehicles. It's a niche in the automotive sector. It's a very,
for sure,
very interesting niche. And the market is growing a lot in the last decade. And then, as I said, we started to discover the possibility to improve in a different way the processes and generate value for that customers. And the generation of value in this case is related to the using of devices, of sensors, and collect data from that devices.
Right.
And we started to see that it's even for example, we found the possibility to help them managing better a building. Let's say if you have several floors on a skyscraper, you can optimize the usage of the space without. For example, changing the way you assign the space inside the office, avoiding to assign desks to the people and allowing people to book the desks they need when they need. That's an example. Then we discovered that in the production industry, there is a huge need to connect the products with the capability of the products to be commanded by remote, to send data to cloud platforms and to analyze this data. There is a huge movement in the servitization of the products. So adding abstract layers of software and services to physical products, and this became another huge market to follow. It's incredible. It looks like, to me, it looks like every company that is building, is producing something that is electronic. Is looking around to the possibility is trying to understand how they can add services to their products.
Yeah, totally.
And also, and this is part of the Internet of Things evolution, and now this is something that is still happening, and we are probably going to see this evolution for many years in the future. But on the other side, we see more companies, even in the production. I mean, industrial companies that produce products that need to put sensors inside their production facilities in order to better understand how the behaviors of their production sites. And they needed to collect the data from these sensors, and they needed to connect the data they collect to data that are coming from their, for example, supply chain, from the logistic, from third-party partners, and they need to analyze this data. And so the Internet of Things is something that starts a process inside these companies. You start putting sensors, you collect data around your own facilities, and then you start to imagine, to look at the data and imagine new optimizations of the processes and of your business, and sometimes correlating the data with external data and suppliers and all the other data sets you can reach. You discover sometimes how to build a new business from the data.
Absolutely. So one of the questions I want to ask, kind of just about your experience in the space as it relates to IoT, is because it seems like you have a lot of background and understanding of kind of the agile software development side of things. And I'd love it if you could just at a high level explain what agile software development is to our audience and how it works in the world of IoT, and why it's something that you recommend and practice, and why it lends itself well to success on the IoT side of things.
Okay, I think from a high point of view, agile is an approach that helps to create communities of knowledge workers that can express their full potential. When we speak about work nowadays, most of the activities we face every day as Interlogica, and most of the activities in our customers are knowledge activities. Agile is a way to create organizations that allows knowledge workers to express at their best. And is a way to manage projects in order to follow the continuous changes that the market requires. Market is evolving at a huge speed, and long-term projects are no more the best way to evolve your business. So Agile provides a lot of tools that are cultural tools, mainly, that helps to organize projects in order to be able to go to the market with solutions that can then really retrieve feedbacks, give you feedbacks, and allows to change fast while you learn from the market. Where do I see Agile in the IoT? Well, you say IoT, if we speak about the things part of IoT, so the hardware. I'm not very expert about the agile development of hardware because hardware normally needs certain kind of design and a certain time for design and development. But I see agile in every activity that involves the software development. This, I mean, from the firmware part to the cloud platforms and everything around. Agile is also a way to organize the company itself. It's not only a way to manage projects. Is a way to organize the company around the people. It's a very humanistic approach to the organization of a company. Right. So where do I see agile? If you want to go to the market with a product, you cannot spend months designing a solution. In my opinion, it's much more better to start with a minimum viable product and go to the market as soon as possible, learn from the market, and then evolve the product by fast interactions. And this is agile, basically.
Awesome. That's great. I appreciate kind of sharing those insights with our audience and kind of giving a quick overview. It's very helpful. One of the things I did want to ask you is when it comes to the development of a IoT solution, there are lots of possible, I guess, companies to work with that can help develop a solution. And then there are a lot of that can do them custom. And then there are options where you can kind of buy it off the shelf in a sense. I wanted to know your thoughts on kind of the difference between how somebody out there listening should view kind of off the shelf IoT solutions as opposed to kind of building from scratch custom, and who should choose one or the other and why.
Why? Wow! What a question! I from my point of view, you look for an off-the-shelf solution when you need to acquire a process and the knowledge about the process from outside. I mean, you buy a solution that is made for maybe hundreds or thousands of companies like yours, and that solution is okay for your business model. I see the development of a customized, of the tailored software as the answer for a different kind of need. When you need to create something that is not available in the market or that is cutting edge technology and or that fits with some specific need that is useful for let's say a sort of blue ocean strategy of your company. I just, if I can spend 1 minute, I can make you an example.
Sure.
Imagine a production company that builds line machines that are used by huge companies to build products. Okay, and that machines produces thousands of small products per hour. Thousands and thousands, I mean very big numbers. And you need to create, to add a quality assurance layer for that products. So you have to monitor to check the quality of thousands and thousands of products every hour or every minute. And this quality can be monitored through an AI, let's say a machine learning system that is able to recognize from a photo the quality of the product and recognize which product is defective. And
Sure.
But and you need to train your specific AI to be able to recognize which product is defective and which one is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very particular process. The process of collection of images from different facilities, for example, the process of tagging the images, the process of the recognition of training the specific AI, the quality assurance of that AI, the data center needed inside the specific facilities to run the artificial intelligence, the machine learning software to provide this kind of service. The entire, let's say, approach of the AI on the edge, the way to implement it in a very complex, wide structure. This is an example. This is a real example about something we did, and we are still working on, but it's already working. It's a real application.
Right.
This is something that is too very, very complex, and at a certain point, I can assure you that you need certain level of capability to manage, to handle technology, and to build something that is not existing. So this is an example. Maybe it's not the best example, but in this case, it's a real case. There is not any ready-made software solution that performs this specific task in the way the customer needs. And so you need to build it.
Absolutely.
We are speaking about Internet of Things. You need cameras around, you need a lot of stuff on the production facility. Then you need to transfer information in a secure way. Then you need to train AI centrally and then deploy the AI on the edges. So we are speaking about AI on the edge. And it's like... So we are speaking about a lot of interesting and technologies that I can define it's a sort of frontier.
Absolutely. Now I wanted to shift before we finish up here and ask a quick ML question. So, with IoT, obviously there's tons of data that's being collected by these sensors. Obviously the scale of that depends solely on the solution, the use case, how many sensors are deployed. But I want to kind of ask you how machine learning kind of plays into the management and recognition of those data sets that are coming in, and how that kind of is playing a role more at the edge than probably ever before. So how are companies kind of handling that, and what's that approach look like?
Okay, to handle data is clearly one of the biggest issues sometimes, depending on the volumes, clearly. Today, just speaking about the example I did a few seconds ago, you can use specific devices for the optical recognition that are able not only to, for example, shoot a photo, but they are able internally to create some meta tags that can speed up a little bit the process and reduce the quantity of computational power you need on the edge too. Then we normally perform a certain amount of calculations on the edge, not on the camera, but on let's say on specific devices or servers on the edge. So we reduce the amount of data. We clear up, we refine, we reduce the amount of data that we need to elaborate in the central, in the place where we train the AI. But clearly, it's more, let's say, a game of distributing the management, the usage also of the data in different levels of the process. Machine learning can help. It's not always feasible to distribute the computational activity on the edge. Sometimes we need to collect the pure data in the center of the star. It's something you need to define case by case. Depends on what kind of operations you need to perform on the data. But as you said, the volume is sometimes is a big challenge. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that I think we talked a lot about in just this new world of being able to collect so much data with the capabilities that IoT has kind of enabled organizations to do, which is something they weren't able to do before. And then the question from there is, well, what do I do with the data? How do I manage the data? How do I interpret the data? How do I do it at in an effective way? How do I do it at an effective cost? So there's, the discussion around what gets done at the edge, what gets done at the up in the cloud, and then that's where the ML then comes in to being able to kind of have that put that brain in there to make decisions and just overall kind of lead to the success of these deployments across the board. So I think we're on the same page when it comes to that for sure. One thing I wanted to ask kind of at the end here is just from on the company side at Interlogica, what are some things that maybe you have going on now or have going on in the next couple of months that our audience should be interested in? And then on top of that, if they have more questions or want to learn a little bit more, what's the best way they can reach out or should kind of engage to kind of get that information?
Okay, what we are doing and the kind of challenge we are facing, we see for our next future is related to the, let's say, it's a sort of a process that, let's call it from IoT to the executive. So what is the entire process that goes from the sensor, the physical sensor, to the executive of of a company in order to support him taking decisions and to train machine learning software in order to be able to take decisions or to support the executive in order to be able to take the best decisions. So all the process from the sensor to the executive. And this is the huge value that we see in the IoT. I repeat something I said at the beginning of the interview. I really think that's the point. IoT is a game changer when you speak about refining and evolving and the business, and also for the creation of new business model, to identify new possible business models. It passes from IoT to data to executive. This is our challenge for the next years. Enable companies to transform themselves through the data. If someone needs to connect to Interlogica, for sure the best way is to use our website, that is interlogica.it. Inside there you can find a lot of information and all the contacts details, and we are very happy to interact with everyone, not only for business, sometimes even just for a talk, for a chat.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. We'll make sure we link all of that up in our description and all the material that we put out. And obviously we'll share it with you, and so you can get it out to your audience. And then we can kind of just double up and get as many people to listen to this episode as possible. I really appreciate the time. It always means a lot when executives are willing to share a few minutes to kind of enlighten the industry on your knowledge, experience, what your company's doing, all that fun and exciting stuff. So Alessandro, I really appreciate it. And thank you for being on the show.
Thanks to you, Ryan. I'm proud to be here.
Great. All right, everyone. Thanks again for joining us this week on the IoT for All podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please leave us a rating or review, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you're listening to us on. Also, if you have a guest you'd like to see on the show, please drop us a note at ryan@iotforall.com, and we'll do everything we can to get them as a featured guest. Other than that, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.